got 10:53. Thought it'd be nice to open with those bells of ours. Good morning, everyone. I am Karen LeBlanc, and I minister to this congregation as we minister to each other. We are a beloved community of people who believe that everyone is worthy of respect, that science is real, that the democratic process is a strong and sacred thing, and that the light and energy that we share and put out makes a difference in this world. We are people of purpose here, and everyone, I mean everyone, is welcome in this meeting house. Thank you, Sean. Let's welcome our new Sunday sexton, Sean Butters, raised up in this here church. Got to ring the bell for the first time this morning, and I'm pretty sure he's thrilled. I would be. Ringing the bell's a lot of fun. So for hopefully the last week, we'll see after this board meeting, we are going to ask you to keep your masks on. I gave an exemption to my stepfather, Charlie, here because he has trouble with his breathing. You're going to be fine, Charlie. Singing is fine. Coffee hour is still canceled for the moment, but once again, hopefully when we get rid of these masks, we'll be able to go back to coffee hour. I know I miss it, and I know a lot of you do too. Oh, tell me about it. Please put your phones in worship mode so we don't get interrupted by that mundane stuff. And please be aware that we are live streaming and recording this service today, so if you don't want to share things with the rest of the world, then I suggest you don't say them in front of the camera into a microphone. So we are going to light our chalice. Mom, would you like to light the chalice for us this morning? My mother, everyone, brought me into the world. Thank you very much. Awesome. Right here. Right there. The matches are right in front of it. We're old school here, Mom. We go back over 300 years, you know. We're older than the city of New Bedford, our congregation, just to put that into perspective for you. The reading this morning for our chalice lighting is from A. Powell Davies. So far as I can see, all the great leaders and the great exemplars of religion possessed faith in life's essence, in its hidden meaning, in its moral claim, and in the rightness of its inner spiritual guidance. And by this, the great ones lived their lives. So must we. There are no problems greater than our power to solve them. There are no burdens greater than our strength. We shape by every moment of our lives the great decisions. Then let us venture still, with reason as a lamp to guide us, but lighted with the light of faith. And our opening words this morning are from Reverend Gretchen Haley, who I thank so much for giving all of her wise words to our Soul Matters program for use by permission here. This is called This Act of Faith. What is going to happen? Will everything be okay? What can I do? In these days, we find ourselves too often struck with these questions on repeat. What's going to happen? Will everything be okay? What can I do? We grasp at signs and markers, articles of news and analysis, Facebook memes and forwarded emails as if the new zodiac capable of forecasting all that life yet may bring our way, as if we could prepare, as if life had ever made any promises of making sense or turning out the way we'd thought, as if we are not also actors in this unfolding story. For this hour we gather to surrender to the mystery, to release ourselves from the needing to know, the yearning to have it already all figured out, and also the burden of believing we either have to have all the control or none. Here in our song and in our silence, our stories, and our sharing, we make space for a new breath, a new healing, a new possibility to take root. That is courage, forged in the fire of our coming together and felt in the spirit that comes alive in this act of faith, that we believe still a new world is possible, that we are creating it already, here and now. So come, let us worship together. And please rise in body and spirit, or spirit as you are willing and able, and sing with me hymn number 38, Morning Has Broken. To say hello to one another, greet each other. And please, while you are standing, gotcha. While you're standing, let us read our covenant that's printed in your order of service. We come together as a religious community, upholding freedom of conscience, right relationship, and the inherent worth of all people. We value our diversity and pledge to care for one another in the spirit of compassion, to speak and listen to each other with respect, and to promote justice and kindness in the world. Please be seated now. Won't trick you anymore. Our first reading is from Martha Nussbaum. The condition of being good is that it should always be possible for you to be morally destroyed by something you couldn't prevent. To be a good human being is to have a kind of openness to the world, an ability to trust uncertain things beyond your control that can lead you to be shattered in very extreme circumstances for which you were not to blame. That says something very important about the human condition of the ethical life. It is based on a trust in the uncertain and on a willingness to be exposed. It is based on being more like a plant than like a jewel, something rather fragile, but whose very particular beauty is inseparable from its fragility. Now we'll get some more Ukrainian music from Randy today. Now is the time in our service where we share with each other our joys and our sorrows, and I'm going to open with Randy, and first we are going to light this blue and yellow candle for the people of Ukraine.
Good morning, everyone. So it's not often that I talk about my other job that I have. I am a manager of a software engineering team at a high-tech company in the Boston area. But we have offices all over the world, and I have the good fortune of managing people in many different sites in the world. This has been a tough week for me, for my team, for my company, because we have 30-plus people in just my group alone in Kyiv. It has been just heart-wrenching hearing some of the stories coming from the people, and I have been in touch with a number of the team in the last week and a half. I have my clothing, I have my music, all dedicated to the team in Kyiv, and some of them are still there, some are spreading out to safer areas in the west. Amazingly, very few of them want to leave. They're staying and they're fighting. Men, women, families. Some families can't get out of Kyiv because they have newborn babies and can't put a baby in a car for 30 hours to go west to Lviv. So I just wanted to dedicate today's music, today's service, to my good friends in Ukraine and wish them the best. They're going to need more than just our wishes, unfortunately. It's a very tough time there. So please keep them in your thoughts. Thank you.
Amen. Thank you, Randy. We hold those people who are going through so much right now in our hearts. And my mom is here today, and she would like to say something too.
Hi, I'm Kathy, and as you know, I'm Karen's mom. And you can't hold this, yes. And, oh, I'm sorry. Many years ago, Karen had a little sister who didn't make it. She only lived 5 hours. And some wonderful neighbors, when I came home, they had given me a beautiful Christmas cactus. I have kept it alive for many, many years. I won't say how long because she wouldn't want me to tell her age.
Almost 50.
And over the years, I've made many, many plantings from this one plant. I believe Karen has one. And so I've kept this alive, this memory and this kindness from the neighbors. And so I decided, in memory of Dylan, Karen's son, my grandson, who loved nature and landscaping and all that other stuff, that I would make a plant in memory of Dylan. And it has a special meaning because when the twins were very little, I was riding one day and Ian said, "Oh, Graham, look at the crescent moon." And of course, Dylan didn't care much about reading, so Ian used to read too, Dylan, and he used to tell him about the crescent moon. So on this planter, all the way around, are crescent moons. I was so fortunate to be able to find that. So in honor of Dylan and my beautiful daughter, I'd like to give this plant to the Unitarian Church.
Thanks, Mom. And I'm not sure if you're aware, but that lovely peace plant in the corner is also in memory of my son from my mom. And we will light this lovely candle that was dedicated by her church to my son during their memorial service this year too. So we'll make that special. Come on up, Alan. Give us some bird whistles to make us smile.
Hi, I think I told you a couple weeks ago, a month ago maybe, the most famous song composed in the Ukraine is O Sole Mio, which was written by an Italian, and the person who Di Capua traveled with the composer, traveled with his father all over Europe, and he happened to be in Odessa when the song was sent to him. And that's one that goes, Mana tu koike, mana tu sole, più bello me, o sole mio, stan fronte a te. And it relates to birds in that it's about the sun, although it's also about love. You are my son, he says, right there. But it's what the birds do in the morning chorus. They greet the sun, and I think metaphysically, they think they're helping the sun up. And this week, I heard a blue jay do something I'd never heard. I've often heard it do it from a distance, but it did this one. Oops. Like that. Anyways, that's the blue jay.
Thank you, Alan. Does anyone else have anything they would like to share?
So we had a scary episode in our family with my husband took suddenly very sick, and he was hospitalized on an emergency. And St. Luke said they couldn't take care of him, so they transferred him to Rhode Island Hospital for this exotic procedure. The great man was there who had invented the instrument that needed to be used. So he had 2 surgeries, and they sent him home, and he's home now healing, and looks like everything is going to be fine. And thank you for your prayers and your thoughts.
Thank you. I'm so glad John's doing better. Yes, I'm sure you are. I've been thinking about him and praying on him all week. So if there's anyone else have anything to share before we close this part down, I will light 2 final candles, as is our practice here, one for all the joys and the sorrows we keep in our hearts, and one for those who don't have a safe and supportive place to share their joys and their sorrows. In the meditation this morning is by Galway Kinnell. It's called Wait. Wait for now. Distrust everything if you have to. But trust the hours. Haven't they carried you everywhere up until now? Personal events will become interesting again. Hair will become interesting. Pain will become interesting. Buds that open out of season will become lovely again. Secondhand gloves will become lovely again. Their memories are what give them the need for other hands. And the desolation of lovers is the same, that enormous emptiness carved out of such tiny beings as we are, asks to be filled. The need for the new love is faithfulness to the old. Wait, don't go too early. You're tired, but everyone's tired. But no one is tired enough. No one is tired enough. Only wait a while and listen. Music of hair, music of pain, music of looms, weaving all of our loves again. Be there to hear it. It will be the only time, most of all, to hear the flute of your whole existence, rehearsed by the sorrows, play itself into total exhaustion. Amen. accordion. Our second reading this morning is from Reverend Josh Pollack, also used by permission. I am a person of faith. There are truths on which I can rely. I know my fear will burn away, not because I believe something for which I have no evidence, but precisely because there have been times when I have been fearful and vulnerable and weak, and because there have been times when I have witnessed others, including many of you, confronting challenges far, far greater than any I have ever confronted, and they and you have been fearful and vulnerable and weak. And in the act of acknowledging and accepting my fear, vulnerability, and weakness, and in their act and your act of acknowledging and accepting fear, vulnerability, and weakness, somehow, always, a next step emerges, a path emerges. We can go on. And in beginning to move along the path, fear burns away. This is my experience, and I trust it. Join me now in hymn number 108, 108. My life flows on, an endless song, also used by permission. Please rise in body or spirit. Time in our service where we ask you to donate toward the good works of this church. Judy, would you mind helping your sweet husband to collect the offertory? I appreciate your help. Judy? Or Deb, whoever is kind enough. Thank you. If at any point you feel like dancing, I give you full permission. This sermon opens with a quote by Reverend David Rankin. Everything worth doing in the world is a desperate gamble, a game of chance where nothing is certain. What is love? Is it not a wild and sublime speculation that can end in ecstasy or despair? What is courage? Is it not a hazardous risk of fortune that can end in victory or defeat? What is adventure? Is it not a blind leap in the dark that can end in joy or disaster? So if nothing is certain, everything that's important is a desperate gamble, well, geez, how do we go about our lives without being in a constant state of anxiety and worry and maybe even deep depression? Sometimes we can't. That's the answer. Sometimes we can't. We get overwhelmed with everything. The political chaos, the suffering, and the injustice we can't imagine or do anything about. The constant challenges our lives throw at us. The stress of this punishing pandemic. Grief and loss, change we did not expect or ask for. Nonetheless, humans are amazingly resilient. And now, before I go on with that, I read an article last night about resilience fatigue, just like compassion fatigue with caregivers and teachers and so forth. Resilience fatigue happens when the HR people in your company, instead of giving you a really good raise and maybe some better time off, tell you how resilient you are over and over again and that you are doing an awesome job and look at how you just bounce back. And it is just a little too much for some people, and I don't blame them. It's like telling somebody who's terribly depressed that everything's going to be fine. You'll get through this. There's light at the end of the tunnel. So we put our heads into our hands. We scream into the night as if the stars cared. Take a deep and shaky breath, and we get up and we go on. If this weren't true, our species would have died out a long time ago. Somehow we managed to have hope in the direst of circumstances. We managed to pull ourselves up by non-existent bootstraps. Who even has bootstraps? And we can create light in the darkness, lit with the fire of sheer will. We somehow have faith that things will get better. But why? How? What calls us to have faith? Let me read to you the introduction to our Soul Matters resources this month. I thought it was pretty well done. It opens with two quotes. The first one from Frederick Buckner. Faith is homesickness. Faith is a lump in the throat. I like that one. The second quote is from Frederick and Mary Ann Broussard. It said, once a reporter asked A.J. Musty, who is a Dutch-born American clergyman and political activist, FYI, do you really think you are going to change the policies of this country by standing out here alone at night in front of the White House with a candle? Musty replied softly, oh, I don't do this to change the country. I do this so the country doesn't change me. Right? That's what I said. So Reverend Scott Taylor goes on. How do we renew our faith when so much is falling apart? In these fragile days, we who assess life through the fire of reason find so little reason to trust that everything is going to be okay. The climate is collapsing. Racism often morphs into more than it's removed. Politics divide more than they unite. Don't tell us it's slowly getting better. Don't ask us to deny this feeling of despair that feels so real. On so many days, we have lost our hope for a better day. But do we long for it? Yes, we do, don't we? Despite the setbacks and the slowness, there remains something inside that continues to say, it can be better. More is possible. I need to believe that goodness is real and true. It's a longing that lingers no matter what. Maybe that's what the preacher meant when he spoke of faith as a hunger for home. Maybe faith is more about remembering our longing for what we love and who we want to be, more than it is an act of restoring our trust that everything will work out okay. Maybe that peacenik was right. We must remain faithful to the fight, not because change is guaranteed, but to ensure that we are not changed. I do like what Reverend Taylor was getting at there. Be assured, church, that one of the few things that are guaranteed is change. They used to say death and taxes, but considering how many people avoid taxes, pretty sure it's just birth and death and change. Might be one of the only things that is actually guaranteed, and to assure that we are not changed, the principles that we stand on and fight for are not changed. That seems like an impossible task sometimes. But it is that task exactly that holds the essence of faith, in my opinion. Let me put it like this. We are all starving artists. We are all Vincent van Gogh, battling in the space between the beauty that brings you to tears and the grief that does the same thing, and having no choice but to do something about it, whether it's painting, walking, running, no matter. If we can have faith in anything, it's that change is a-coming, right? We are equally fragile and vulnerable as we are resilient and courageous. Everyone, and I mean everyone, is. And faith, I think, lies in that numinous place between essentially wanting to give up completely and knowing somewhere deep down that there is something just around the corner that will change us again, that will make us believe that the struggle is worth it. There's a piece in our resources this month, and this is where I got the title of this sermon, The Gospel of Astonishment. It's called Coming Home by Fred Lamont. When times are dark, the way becomes clear. Trust in your breath. Rest in your heart. Bow to the stranger. This is the gospel of astonishment. If we are completely lost, we come home to each other. I like every line of that, especially that when we are lost, we come home to each other. But I love that little turn of phrase, the gospel of astonishment. I loved it, of course, for that lusciousness in its words, but more about what it invoked about faith for me, what really makes us resilient. And this is the perfect time to talk about it. This changing time that we all have faith will come every year as the sleeping world awakens in springtime. The gospel of astonishment, to me, is written on our hearts in those simple moments that surprise us and make us smile, even when we grieve, even when we can't help but feel our hearts expand from the tiniest experiences sometimes. Let me give you an example that fits in with honoring Dylan, my son, as my mom did today. I visit Dylan's grave often. It's the coolest grave at Riverside Cemetery in Fairhaven. It's got a green man on it. His stone has an old electric guitar leaning up against it. I don't know who put it there. There's a penny whistle available for people that would like to play. I put up a birdhouse on the tree next to him. It's got a big, goofy face on it. I bring stones and tiny things he would like. There are solar lights that glow when it gets dark with little tiny beaches inside each one. There's a key. I don't know to what or from whom. And all of these things distract me from the heart of the grief underneath the glamour of Dylan's monument. And although it makes me smile to look at all those cool things and be there, it still hurts. Of course it does. But when I was there on Friday, I was raking up some leaves and kicking out some ice from the backside where it's dark and shadowy, I uncovered the tips of all the tulips that I planted right around the anniversary of his death in November. And I could already see in my mind the bright yellow and red that will be appearing in no time. I could see it. And I had absolute faith that they would appear. And I laughed out loud, completely astonished, for one thing, that they had survived the ravenous squirrels in Riverside Cemetery, which just amazed me, and the ice buildup that he's way at the top of the hill, and it's cold up there. But I was astonished that I could laugh in the face of all the pain. Astonished that spring was coming, no matter what. It was coming. It always will. It always will. Somehow our race survives because, not despite the unimaginable pain of giving birth, the astonishment of holding your child, a life you grew in your body, and the rewards of being a parent far outweigh the pain. Enough that we do it again and again. That pain for the reward of astonishment, the light at the end of the tunnel that makes us smile ear to ear after we've gone through all that pain of giving birth. Maybe it's the math of it. Math is a sacred thing too, you know. And I don't know how to express the equation precisely, but somehow moments of joy have a density that might be 2 or 3 times the weight of grief. It might not seem like it all the time, but it has to be true. Hope blooms in the most delicious and unexpected places and times and spaces. Change is never ending, but baby, we are built for it. And faith is rooted in astonishment, the astonishment that we humans take from sunrises and babies, from art and poetry, from religion and community and faith. It's the faith that the whole world does move on and we move with it. We might not have bought the ticket for that particular ride, but it's the one we're on, so you might as well strap in and make the best of it, right? It astonishes me every day that so many of us have that kind of faith, have that deep sense of hope all the time. Maybe what keeps us going is that we astonish and inspire each other so much. I know I take a very large chunk of my faith from being inspired by others all the time. Maybe it's something we can't quite put our finger on, but we know it's there, for sure. Maybe we call it God or Goddess, or offer up our faith to a higher power. Maybe it doesn't matter at all, as long as you have faith in yourself and your own connection to the divine. So this month, think about what little things astonish you. Let little things astonish you. What breaks through the darkness and worry for you? Think about it. What do you have faith in? What gives you hope? What wonder makes you grateful to be alive, even when you're in pain? How do we renew our faith in this world that always changes and challenges us? I don't have the answers to these questions if you're looking at me for those. You're going to have to take these home and think about them yourself, okay? Maybe Feed Your Soul Sunday at the end of the month. We can talk a little bit about our faith, what we believe. So let me close with this little tidbit. That the word faith didn't enter the English language until the 1200s after the Norman invasion, via the Old French fide, from the Latin semper fidelis, of course, always loyal. And its meaning then had nothing to do with the belief in the belief in the absence of evidence, but rather with keeping promises and being worthy of trust. One who was faithful to God that kept the commandments. It was not a statement about belief, but about how we behaved. So for you who struggle with that word faith, think about that. Not what do you believe, but what do you do that makes you worthy of trust? Here's a nice little thought nugget you can take home, piled on those other questions. It's going to be a busy week in your brain, I hope. With all that, I say amen. Good people, amen. Let's keep going. Sing with me, my friends, in the teal hymnal. Hopefully you've got one. Number 1028. 1028, The Fire of Commitment. And let me find my closing words before we get this going. There we go. Yes. Please rise in body or spirit as you are willing and able. From the light of days remembered burns a beacon bright and clear, guiding hands and hearts and spirits into faith set free from fear. When the fire of commitment sets our mind and soul ablaze, when our hunger and our passion meet to call us on our way, when we live with deep assurance of the flame that burns within, then our promise finds fulfillment and our future can begin. From the stories of our living rings a song both brave and free, calling pilgrims still to witness to the life of liberty. When the fire of commitment sets our mind and soul ablaze, when our hunger and our passion meet to call us on our way, when we live with deep assurance of the flame that burns within, then our promise finds fulfillment and our future can begin. From the dreams of youthful vision comes a new prophetic voice, which demands a deeper justice built by our courageous choice. When the fire of commitment sets our mind and soul ablaze, when our hunger and our passion meets to call us on our way, when we live with deep assurance of the flame that burns within, then our promise finds fulfillment and our future can begin. Closing words are also from Reverend Scott Taylor, based on lyrics by Meg Barnhouse. May we go out today with a trust in the tenderness that so often arrives to hold us in our pain, with a faith in love that never ends and never lets us go, with a confidence in the courage that arises from within, but often not of our own doing, remembering and believing that all will be well, and all will be well, and all manner of things will be well. My dad used to tell me that. Amen, good people. Amen, church. Quick reminder, next weekend, Mary Raposa, who is the Director of Parks, Beaches, and Recreation in New Bedford, will be speaking here. I will not be here next week. I hope. I'm really trying to stay home for 1 week. The week after that is the 20th. It is the marathon that day, the half marathon in New Bedford. If you would love to come to church, please come to church. You might like to park above County Street if you want to go home before 1 p.m. because if you get in here early, you can park in the lot, but then from the time you get in that lot, you are not leaving until 12:30, 1 o'clock, because all the streets are blocked off. So I wanted everyone to be aware of that and think about that for the 20th. Still love to see you here, but just be forewarned. Okay. Good people, hold fast. We love you. Stay strong. And I learned one Ukrainian phrase this week. Jerde vodo es propetarte. Live long and prosper. Go in peace, my friends. Go in peace.